Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Thank you so much for coming back. If you're new here, we do videos on everything related to life basically. So budgeting, meal prep, grocery hauls, day in the life, homeschool videos, Q&As, challenges, cleaning, organizing, all of that fun stuff. So if you would like to join us on our journey, we would love to have you. Just click that subscribe button below and turn on those bell notifications so you don't miss a video. We post every Friday and occasional bonus videos on Tuesdays as well. Today I am going to be doing a video showing you guys how Anthony and I budget each month. And I did a poll of what kind of videos you guys would like to see, and this was one of the top choices. And I figured now's a good time to get it out for you before January ends. So if budgeting is something that is a goal for your family, that you could take some tips and tricks from this video and implement them into your own lives if you choose to do that. We follow Dave Ramsey's method of budgeting, and it's outlined as 7 baby steps. And in case you're not familiar with it, I'll do a quick summary, but I highly recommend checking out his book from the library or buying it, or listening to his free podcasts to get a better idea of what he really stands for and how his method really works, because ultimately he teaches it better than I ever could. So we found Dave Ramsey informally about 5 or 6 years ago, and I happened to pick up his book at the library and read it and loved it, but that was really as far as we got with it. And then a couple years later I found his podcasts and I started listening to those, and they are so motivational that it really made me want to look into it further. So I read the book again. This time was like, okay, we're doing this, and I started playing the podcasts at home and in the car, and Anthony got motivated as well. And it's very typical of us to jump in head first to things that we're passionate about. So this was one of those things. We jumped into becoming volunteer coordinators for his class, Financial Peace University, that teaches the 7 baby steps and gives you the motivation that you need and accountability, more importantly, to do that. And we have led a handful of classes, and it's been amazing so far. We used to live paycheck to paycheck and hope there was enough at the end of the month to cover all of our bills. And it was so stressful that I would usually just take it all on myself, because money is something that has always stressed Anthony out more than it has me. So I would always shoulder the load and kind of just take care of the money thing on my own. And I never even realized how unhealthy that was. When we're in a partnership together, it's so important to be on the same page and for both people to know what's going on with money and have input and a say in where money is going to go. So after diving into the 7 baby steps, we completely changed how we did things, and we became a team with it. Almost right away noticed a big difference, and we weren't living paycheck to paycheck anymore, but our income had stayed the same. And so all it was a matter of being disciplined and telling our money where it's gonna go instead of letting it tell us what it's gonna do. That was all the change that we needed. I am going to be using our real numbers, and that's because we really want to be able to motivate and inspire people through this channel. And I don't feel like this video in particular would have as much of an impact if we were just using a made-up hypothetical scenario, because people want to see real people, real life budgeting, and so that's what we're going to do. This video would get really long today if I tried to explain all of the baby steps to you. I will put links in the description that will lead you to some more information on the baby steps, the link to his podcast to be able to listen to every day, and I'm also going to post a link to a really inspirational debt-free scream from a single mom who has been through the ringer and came out on the other side successful because she stuck with it. So I highly recommend going to check that video out and those other links once you're done watching this. But for the purposes of the video today and understanding part of our journey, baby step 1 is to save $1,000 emergency fund, and that's called your baby emergency fund. Basically, the purpose of that is to cushion the blow if something happens so that you don't go further into debt in order to cover that emergency. So your tire blows out on the freeway, or you have to go to the hospital and pay a deductible you weren't anticipating, things like that. And that way you don't start filling the hole back in as you're trying to dig out of it. And then once you have that $1,000 saved, your second step is to pay off all of your consumer debt. That includes student loans, personal loans, car loans, credit cards, loans from family members, all of those kinds of things. Basically anything that's not your mortgage is baby step 2. You list them in order from smallest to largest balance, which is called the debt snowball method. And the reasoning behind it is because personal finance is 80% behavior and only 20% math. So a lot of people question the snowball method because certain card might have a higher interest rate than the other, but really it's human nature to need to see progress. And so if you list your debts from smallest to largest and you start knocking those smaller ones out, it's going to give you the motivation to keep going and keep the snowball rolling, hence the debt snowball term. So it is very effective. And we normally are on baby step 2, but we had a family emergency last month that we used our emergency fund for, so we are now replenishing that and are back in baby step 1, so which means we are paying minimum balances on our debt and putting every extra penny we have into that emergency fund to build it back up as quickly as possible. I am a big fan of technology and how easy it makes things. So we do use Dave Ramsey's free EveryDollar app to do our budget, but I also am just a pen and paper girl at heart, and I kind of need to see it written down to really have it sink in. So I also use my planner and do a budget that way as well. So it's kind of a checks and balances system, and it's actually caught a few mistakes as well, and they both have their purposes. And so I'm excited to show you guys how it works. If you only love technology, then that's great, and you'll get a good little glimpse into how we use that. And then if you love having it written down, you'll get a glimpse into that. So hopefully you'll get the best of both worlds and be able to get some tips and tricks to use in your own family. So let's jump into this and get started. The first thing I want to show you is what EveryDollar looks like when you first sign up for it. So I just created this dummy account to show you how the categories are laid out, because we changed ours up a lot and I don't want anyone to log in expecting to see it how we have it and then get confused. So when you first log in, you'll see up here it tells you the month, and you can click that down arrow and it'll show you all of the months so that you can go ahead and budget further ahead if you would like to. And you can also go back to previous months to see how you've done and check on things. And then the first category is income, and you can edit all of these and all of the categories down below as well however you want, just by clicking the title. So I can click this and name it something else if I would like to. I can delete categories if I maybe only have one paycheck per month. I can add in new categories in case I have more than one or two that I need to enter in. So it's all customizable and really easy to use, and you just enter in how much you plan to receive for each of those pay categories, and it will add up your total income for you. So the second box they have here is giving, then savings, and then they break it down into life categories like housing, transportation, food, personal, lifestyle, health, insurance, and then debt. So it's all broken down into categories, and the benefit of having it like that is once you have your numbers entered in, it shows you a pie chart that shows you what percentage of your income you're spending in each category. So that is nice to have, and we tried that for a while, but ultimately we found a way that would work better for us, so we did that. You can also delete whole categories just by clicking on the name and then clicking delete group. So you can delete categories that way and fully customize it. And then the last thing I want to show you are the funds. So notice there's a little piggy bank here next to emergency fund, and the funds, you can make anything you want a fund, and all of that means is that it will create a rollover balance from the month prior for you. So if, for example, you're saving for your car tabs, that are $120 and you want to save $10 a month so that you have that money in your account when the time comes to renew your tabs. You could set the car tab fund up as a fund and set a due date of when you need to have that money, and then click on the fund details, and you can click your starting balance. If you've already put money into there, you can enter something there, and then how much you plan this month you will enter over here. And then whenever you spend money out of that, you will add a transaction into it, but it'll keep track of that for you, like basically a checkbook register. So you'll always be able to see how much money you have in that fund for that category. So that's really nice, and we really love that feature. Okay, so now for our actual budget that we use each month. For partial privacy's sake, I'm just showing you the total number. And that income source comes from a few different places. If you have a set income, it actually is a lot easier to do this, but our income changes from month to month. So we just use what is the minimum that we know we will receive. And that just varies based on if Anthony's gonna work overtime or not, and how many students I have tutoring, and if I have any photography jobs that month or take on any extra side work. So it changes every single month. But so we use this number as our base that we know we're gonna have at least that much, and if we have anything up and above that, then we will budget accordingly and adjust everything when that time comes. So, and I mentioned earlier that we are back on baby step 1, building up our $1,000 emergency fund. I'll come back to that in a minute because I wanted to show you one of the other cool things about this app. But you can already see that my categories are a lot different than the way it's normally set up. So I still have that savings one, but then I created a monthly category, and these are all the bills that are monthly things that come out of our account. So things that don't usually change all that much, utilities, all of our monthly expenses. And then I have an envelopes category, which are the things that we use cash envelopes for or have a separate savings account as a sort of electronic envelope for. And I just found that that was so much easier, because then I could put the due dates next to the title, and then I put them in order of when they are due so that I can go through and see, okay, this bill's coming up, let's just make sure that everything's good to go with that. And for us, it just works a lot better this way. The only downfall is that the pie over here is not really that useful when it's split up this way, because everything's all lumped into 2 categories. But I'm okay with that because I never really looked at that when we were doing it the other way anyways. So we have the girls' dance class. They're in a total of 4 classes between the 2 of them. Our security system, my photography editing software, our electricity, rent, my life insurance, our garbage, which we only pay every other month, but we split it up in half so that we don't have one big bill every other month. Then we have iCloud storage. Anthony's life insurance is at 0 right now because we are almost done with the process of switching him over, and we're not 100% sure how much it's going to be quite yet, because we switched companies with his to get a better rate. So I'm not sure what that's going to be, and I'll enter that in as soon as we know. We pay for Netflix, and then car insurance, our water bill, cell phone. We have a plan with my parents and us and a tablet, so that's 5 lines, and we're actually going to be switching to Cricket Wireless in the next couple weeks to save even more money, because I'm tired of paying almost $300 for cell phones, even though they pay their half as well. The YMCA, we found it to be much cheaper to be members of the Y, and the girls are the only 2 that are members because they do swim class and gymnastics through the YMCA, and it's so much cheaper than doing both of those individually through a private studio or pool. And then we pay for renter's insurance, our car payment, which is our smallest debt right now that we are debt snowballing when we're not in baby step 1. And then internet, and only during football season we pay for PlayStation View so we can watch the football games and not have to worry about where are we going to try to stream it from. And those are all of our monthly expenses. And then in our envelopes, so I will show you our envelopes when I get to the paper side of the budget, but we use cash envelopes for all of the categories that you see that are not funds. So groceries, gas, haircuts, Bailey and Quinn make commission money, and so we have that budgeted in. Household and personal care stuff, and then always a miscellaneous envelope. You always need to have a miscellaneous category because no matter how many months you've budgeted, there's going to be something that comes up that you never thought to budget for. So that takes care of that. Eating out, and then each of us have our fun money and our entertainment. Notice those are all at 0 right now because we are saving up that $1,000 for baby step 1. So we are trying to eliminate as many expenses as we possibly can, and we're doing a no spend February where we do not spend any money that's not a necessary thing to spend on. And then this section of the envelopes, those are actually all electronic envelopes, and we just did that by opening a bunch of different savings accounts through our bank, BECU. And some banks allow you to do this and some don't. If you like this idea but your bank doesn't allow you to open up multiple savings accounts, then you can also look into Capital One 360 or Ally, which are both online banks that you can create as many savings accounts as you want and then just have a debit card linked to them. Or you also have the option of just keeping them in cash, which we did for a while as well, but we just found it to be easier to have them online in our account so we can just log in and look at it whenever we need to. But we put $35 a month into a gift fund, and then sports and activities, that covers the girls and ours. So we play adult co-ed softball, so that covers those league fees as well as Bailey's music class and other expenses that come along with dance, like costumes and recital fees and all the things like that. And then pet care, which mainly is pet food and occasional flea treatments and visits to the vet. Car care, vacation, birthday parties, which is separate from gifts. I do a lot of DIY stuff for the girls' birthday parties, and so we save throughout the year to be able to pay for that. Clothing, and then homeschool supplies. So those are all of our categories that we have separate savings accounts for, and we can add money to that, and the fund builds and keeps track of how much we have. So if you'll notice up here, it tells me that there's $227.39 that's still left to budget. That means that all of our income minus all of the expenses that are added here still leaves us with $227.39. And the whole idea of a zero-based budget is to get that number to 0. So I need to allocate that money somewhere. And obviously right now we're going to be saving that into our emergency fund to bump that up. And then once I do that, then I get a check mark that tells me that it's an EveryDollar budget and I know I'm good to go. Now, as income comes in, I will enter it into the category, and if it's different than what I had planned, then I'll change that accordingly, and then I'll have to allocate it as well. And then same with different expenses. So if we come under budget for gas, then I can put that up into the emergency fund, or I can add it to groceries if we're cutting it close on that, or however we want to do this. So that's the basis of our online budget using EveryDollar. So now let's go to the handwritten planner budgeting. Oh, really quickly before we get started on the paper budget, I wanted to show you, I made this cash envelope system myself, but you can always buy them or use plain white envelopes or whatever you want. But basically this is how we keep our envelopes, and this one's for eating out, miscellaneous, gas, haircuts, groceries, and then household and personal care. And we keep those in cash because those are categories that we tend to overspend on easier, and so it's a lot easier just to have it in these zip up pouches and all in one spot so that I can grab this and go whenever I need to. But then I also have them velcroed in so that if I don't want to carry all this cash with me and I'm just going to grab groceries real quick, I can grab that envelope only instead of bringing the whole thing with me. So that is how we do cash envelopes. And then this is my planner. This is the Mom Be Happy planner, and I kind of put it together myself with, I just bought the cover and then the inserts and put it together myself, but I really love it. And the first thing I did was create my own bill pay list, and these bills are all of the monthly bills you saw in the EveryDollar budget, and I just wanted them all in one spot so that I could see when they're paid. When I know what the amounts are going to be, I write them in pencil, and then once they have cleared the account, then I trace over them in marker so that I know they've been paid. The first thing that I do when we are budgeting is to fill out the monthly calendar, and I do this with all of the monthly bills so that I can check them off. Again, it's just another way for me to see that they're being paid. I've already marked Anthony's paydays here and here, and mine are so irregular that it would be impossible to mark them. I would basically have marks on several days each week, so I don't mark mine until I actually receive it. But what I'm going to do is, once we have sat down and entered all of our stuff into EveryDollar and we have all the numbers ready to go, then I will open my planner and I will hop onto the monthly category and start filling things in. On the first, the girls' dance class fee comes out, and that's $108. So over here on the first, I will put a checkbox, write what it is, and what the amount is so that I know when it's coming up. And then on the third, we have our security coming out. So I will write that in. And that's $58.24. And then I will go through and do the whole month with all of the bills that are going to come out, and then that way I can go through and check them when they've been paid. Again, it's probably overkill. You probably don't need to do this, but for me, I really like having the paper supplement to the online system. And then the next pages in the planner are probably my favorites. That's because it really keeps us accountable to what we're spending and shows us kind of where we're spending things on wants more than needs. And we can also check back and make sure, like, yes, we're using our cash envelopes for the categories that we need to. So this side is a bill pay checklist that I don't really use because I already have the online one, the calendar version I just showed you, and the bill pay checklist in the front, so I don't really use this one. But the back side of it is the calendar, so I can't just take it out. But this side is definitely useful. So it has the date, the amount, the category description, and then you check whether you used cash, credit, or debit for it, and then whether it was a need or a want. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just write the date in, the amount, what it was for, what category it belonged in, how you paid, and then whether it was a need or a want. So I'll show you how that kind of worked in January so you can see how it works. But this was part of our expenses in January, and basically what we would do is each night we sit down for 5 minutes before we go to bed. It's super quick, and we log into our bank account and we see if any payments came out, and if it did, it's a monthly bill, then we write a star. That way we know to mark it on the other page as well. And then we also go through our cash envelopes and enter in any receipts that we have there or any other expenses and mark the correct boxes. So if we paid cash for it or not, if it was a need or a want, etc. And then once it's all entered here, then we hop onto EveryDollar, which you can do on your computer or your phones, but I definitely recommend setting it up on the computer because it's kind of hard to navigate on the phones for the setup portion of it. But once it's all set up, it's a lot easier. But we enter it all into EveryDollar in the correct category, and then we put a little mark next to it once it's on there so that we know we have tracked it accordingly. So that is basically the gist of doing it on paper For us, I keep it really simple just because EveryDollar is so detailed and has all the information we need. So I really don't need to go too much in detail. I just like to have this for my own personal satisfaction. So that is how we budget our money each month. And the most important thing to remember if you do start this is that it's going to take a few months to really get the hang of things. And don't give up, because it was really hard the first few months. There were things that popped up that we forgot about left and right. We would forget to enter things and then get a week behind and feel very overwhelmed because it just wasn't part of our routine, and we would lose our motivation and go overspend in certain categories and not really care too much, and then kick ourselves for it when the time came to enter it in, and it just was really hard. And so it's going to take a few months to get used to it. So just keep that in mind and expect to make mistakes, because they will for sure happen. But I promise you that it is so worth it, because before we started this journey, we were living paycheck to paycheck, and then we started this journey and we were no longer living paycheck to paycheck, but our income hadn't changed at all. And so all it was a matter of taking control and getting on the same team together, getting on the same page, which I think is so important, because a lot of people, us included, have one person in the relationship that's responsible for handling the money because they're the numbers person or the person that enjoys math, which in our relationship is me. But it's so important for both of you to be on the same page because you're a team. That would be my biggest advice, is to get together, because if you're the person who is doing all of the budgeting, then you're holding that whole burden on your own shoulders, and that's stressful. I know, because I've been there. And then if you're the person who just says let them handle it, then think about that. Think about how stressed they must feel to be the person responsible for all of that, for your whole family's financial future. And that's a hard thing, and that's something that I really truly feel that you need to be on the same page on if you do have a significant other. I also want to mention too that one of the most important things is to stay within your budget. And so a lot of people feel like a budget is a punishment or a trap, and it's really the opposite, because you're completely in control of it. If you love pizza, then you can put in a pizza budget. If you love going to Starbucks, then put in a Starbucks budget category. It's so up to you, and it really is freeing. It's the opposite of being punished, in my opinion. But it has a bad connotation, and so a lot of people think that it's a bad thing. But the thing is, you have to be disciplined. So you pick your categories and you pick how much money is going into those categories. But then once you pick it, that's a promise that you made to yourself and your significant other, your family. And so you have to stick to it. Once the cash in the envelope for whatever category it is, once that money is gone, then it's gone and no more is spent in that envelope. Now there are going to be exceptions, like you ran out of grocery money because it's your first month budgeting and you are kind of lost, but you way over budgeted the gas category and you're not going to need to use it all. You get together, you agree, hey, let's move this $50 from gas into groceries because we kind of did that wrong. We missed the mark on that one. That's totally fine, and that's a responsible way to go about it. You can also choose to carry over money that's left over or put it all towards the baby step that you're on. And we actually just did that this month because we saw that we were on track to have about $30 extra in our gas envelope. So we decided to move that over to our clothing envelope and get the girls shoes for a daddy-daughter dance that they're going to be doing in a couple weeks. So it's a budget, but you're in control of it. And as long as you're making responsible decisions for yourself, if you're single, or together if you have somebody you're accountable to, then that's all that matters. Doing this changed our lives, and I know it can change yours too. I mentioned earlier that we had a life emergency last month that we used our emergency fund for, and that's something that would have been a total disaster and a very stressful time for us if we didn't have that, but we did. So we were able to handle what we needed to handle and not have to worry about money while we did it, because we had it there. That's what it was there for, and we were able to use it. Not only that, but we paid off all of our credit card debt, and we're halfway through paying off our car, which I can't wait to have that almost $400 a month payment gone. because then we'll be able to pay ourselves instead of paying a car company. And then we're on to tackle the big beast of student loans. So we have a ways to go, but we're making progress each month. And I hope that this video inspired you to make some changes in your own life. Please comment down below with whether you've heard of Dave Ramsey or not, whether you follow the 7 baby steps or not, and whether this was motivating to you, because I would love to do more videos like these in the future. So click the thumbs up below the video if you did like this and if you do want to see more of this, because I'm happy to do that. Until next week, stay humble and be kind, and we'll see you next time. Bye guys.